A season to all things. Change is never easy. And the reality is, most people will stay on whatever course they were born into in life. They don't change themselves, nor do they change the direction in their lives. It's very difficult to do. In fact, it's extremely unpleasant and usually a somewhat tumultuous, violent process. And not violent in the sense of like beatings and whatnot, but violent in the sense that it is extremely unpleasant because you are essentially going against yourself. And how this relates to me, well, I have a lot of stuff to change. I mean, I've changed innumerable things about myself already just to arrive at the point that I am. Um, when I look at my life, I mean, it's interesting in the sense that like I don't live up to my potential at all. However, the likelihood that I would even get to this position, the chips were stacked the other way, and I can't even figure out how I made it past certain points. Um, it really looked like you know the end was nigh, and that's why I tend not to let that weigh on me too much. That the end will come quite suddenly and is near. It makes no difference. Like, I'm gonna do what I'm going to do, whether that happens or not. However, the first thing, the expression of emotion, I have to learn how to do this. And the first step is having an apartment that isn't empty. I mean, there's this, but that's like art, you know. That really says something to me about modern culture. It's magnificent, really. I was very proud of myself. But the rest of the walls need stuff on them. And like I don't know what people put in apartments, lamps. I don't know. But I have to find out. I have to create something that is an expression of myself. Now, generally, I always considered such things like, a woman's domain. Um, they're gonna put stuff in apartments. Like, I don't really have much to do with all of that. But I'm left at a point where I kind of have to. And, even then, I actually had feelings about like hookups that I do. Um, and I've never really felt that way before. Like it's always not been a big deal. Like even I think it was last week, there were two girls. Well, I mean they're women. They're like in their 30s at least. But what? Where did they come from? I think they came from like 40 miles away. And I was like, you guys really came all the way down here just so you don't have to see yourself as lesbians. Like just so there's a dick in the mix. Why didn't you just use a strap on? Like why drive 40 miles just I mean, for me, like and one of them was like, well, cuz you'll listen. Uh like you're not going to do things we don't want. Well, I suppose that's something. Uh but I mean, yeah, it was last week. I hooked up with three people, and I don't know. I feel kind of strange about that for some reason, and I don't know why. I've never felt any way about it before. Like at the most, I felt like a slight sense of pride. Like when I was in this fucking pharmacy once, and this girl, young girl, like 18, she was working at the pharmacy, so she must have been 18, but she propositions me, like, do you want to fuck? And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what kind of setup are you working here? And she's like, no, you slept with my aunt, and my aunt told me about it. That's really fucking odd. But I also feel a slight sense of pride when people are talking about that. Like I do try to please. But I don't know. I can't even describe my feelings about it yet. Like I feel something about it that I've never felt before. Like, I don't want to say wrong, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel something different about it though. Like it's not what it was. And like at a point, I mean, the only person I ever wished I was good at sex for was the one relationship that was like big. But that's the relationship where I basically learned how to perform sexually. And so it's like the one place where I wish I was good, I wasn't good. And that's just life. You can't win. However, like like I said, I can't describe it yet. It's too new. I just thought, like, I just had this connection, um, maybe last night. I was watching something about a lawyer who, like, is in the process of ruining. Some YouTube lawyers in the process of ruining his life. Um, and like at one time, like I had the opinion that, like, you think taking away Craigslist and Backpage will stop me? It was almost a challenge. Like they were taking away hookup culture, and I hate to call it culture, but that's just what people call it. There's no culture involved in it. But and I still really never did random shit. I hooked up with people I knew to some extent because you got to make sure people don't have diseases because people are fucking nasty. So there has to be some kind of standard because otherwise, you know, people have fucking diseases and they don't care and they'll fucking spread them and all kinds of shit. Like you can't just going around trusting anybody. Uh, at least that's the way I see it. I mean, I knew some people that played it real fast and loose, and honestly, none of them ever really paid for it. Uh, I can't think of one of them who got AIDS or like Hep C from that. I knew some guys that got Hep C from fucking in prison, and that's ex- expletive word prison, not having sex in prison. Although I did always wonder, like they said they got it from fighting, but you know, I never really pursued it because I really didn't care. But it's not my business anyway, to go around talking about people like that. So whatever you say, boss. However, change and me and my discomfort with it and an apartment that is a home, some kind of representation of me, like something I feel an emotional connection to. Like I don't have any connection, anything but Teddy Danza, and you also can't see the stuffed animal kingdom that lies at the feet there, but it's pretty magnificent too. There's quackers and George and Rainbow Pig. There's just all kinds of stuffed animals down there. I don't like to leave them alone. They need friends. Like, so I make sure they're all together. I'd feel bad if they were by themselves. Like, it would honestly nag at me. Because like, if they were real, they'd get lonely. And I couldn't have that. But change. I have to stop getting distracted. And I mean, I don't even know what the fuck someone would put in an apartment, and why would someone put it there. But I have to stop seeing possessions as just a vector for attack. Like, that's just a potential weakness someone can use against me. Like, this is an extremely unhealthy attitude, to view everything as some means for inflicting pain on me. Um, this is a relic of the past that is no longer even necessary or part of my life, yet it still rules my life. Well, what can I say? I'm in a somewhat pensive mood today, and I was gonna do a thing about content brained, like how that affects people, but I'll probably do that tomorrow. And I really need to start working on editing. Um, it's just not part of my routine, so I forget. I need to set an alarm for it, really. Uh, some kind of thing to remind me in the afternoon. Before I go to bed, I need to work on that. Because there is meaningful stuff I could do with editing. However, this is getting long and it's already pointless, you know. But to summarize, I now have feelings about, I don't want to call them random hookups because they're not entirely random. It's just people I only see for the purposes of degeneracy. Uh, and changing the apartment into a place that is a representation of myself. Um, that is also the most important part. Uh, that is some kind of expression of emotion, some kind of expression of myself that is outside of myself. So I don't live entirely in my own head, because that is where everything happens with me. And I imagine it's one of the reasons I'm so into audiobooks. It's because everything in my eyes goes on in my own head. I don't even really notice my surroundings much. Um, Once again, something I'm sure that was developed in early life. However, however, I'm going to shut the fuck up and move on. My apologies, this sucks so bad, but they can't all be winners now, can they? Take it for what it's worth, I guess, yo.